Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Enrolment Information Night this year. We are so incredibly excited to have you with us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you as part of our Mac.Rob community, hopefully, next year. My name is Raga Baduri, and I have the great privilege of being the school captain this year.
My name's Salma, and I'm privileged to be your school vice captain this year. We're going to be your MCs for tonight.
We begin this evening with our acknowledgement of country. The McRobertson Girls High School acknowledges, respects and expresses our gratitude to the Bunurong people, the traditional custodians on whose ancestral lands our school was founded. We acknowledge the deep relationship of First Nations peoples to country and the continued care of the land, waterways and skies. We commit to building a community through better relationships and greater understanding with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and by actively working towards reconciliation to make a better future for us all. We pay our respects to Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging. We acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander sovereignty was never ceded, and the land on which we gather today always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Students, parents and families, welcome to Mac.Rob today. You'll be hearing not only about the enrolment process, but also hearing from staff and students about what life and culture is like at Mac.Rob. In case you have any questions during the presentation, there'll be a QR code found periodically throughout the slides and also on the pamphlet that you've been given. At the end of the session, this link will be open for 24 hours, after which an FAQ document will be collated and sent out to families. Hopefully you enjoy the session, and with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is our principal, Ms. Sue Harrop.
Thank you so much, Raga and Selma, for your opening of this evening, and thank you all for making time to come to Mac.Rob and braving the wild elements out there. I hope you're not wet and that you're not going to be sitting there uncomfortable for the next hour or so. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about our school, and hopefully some of the questions you have about Mac.Rob will be answered tonight. Raga and Selma have talked to you about the students who are going to speak to you this evening, and I just want to give you a bit of context about that. We've got 1,200 students at Mac.Rob, 300 at each of the 4 year levels, and any number of those students could have done the job. These 8 were asked if they would like to speak, and they all jumped at the opportunity, and they were given a prompt to respond to. So the Year 9s were asked whether they could speak about transition. The Year 11s, they're going to talk about myths. The Year 10s, they're talking about all sorts of elements about our school community, and they've been given licence to tell you what they think you would like to know and what's important for you to know. We haven't scripted that for them. They've had a quick run through this afternoon, just using the mic and so on, but really this is an indication to you of how much we trust our students. I actually only found out what they were going to say in the previous session that we had earlier, and I'm pretty chuffed with what they had to say. I'm very proud of them. One of the speakers who's going to speak to you this afternoon, Stephanie, who's in Year 11, she stepped in at the last minute because her friend was sick, and she only had 2 hours notice before speaking this afternoon, and in that 2 hours she went to ensemble practice. So it's a bit of an exemplification of what Mac.Robian students are like. So what I would like you to do is just to take a moment and actually talk to your young person beside you, parents, and I want you to have a little chat amongst yourself. What is it that you want for your child at school, and what is it that you would like for yourself at school? Have a little 30-second chat and come up with a short list. As we go through this evening, what I want you to do is see if any of those things that you want for yourself or you want for your child are raised and are spoken about, or that we model that to you. And that will help you make a decision about whether Mac.Rob is the school for you. Mac.Rob has a special place in the education system. There are only 4 selective entry schools in Victoria, and we play a very special role in the education system. Our role is to be purpose-built and designed in the way that we structure and function to deal with highly able students, highly able in one or more area. Our job is to stretch those students, to help them grow, to challenge themselves, develop the skills and capabilities of lifelong learning, so that when they graduate and head off into the next phase of their lives, they feel like they've reached their potential in high school. And so you have to want to be challenged in order to come to Mac.Rob. The unique nature of our students and the unique nature of our community is that you can be yourself when you come here. So many of our students report to us that in their current contexts, sometimes they feel like they might need to dumb themselves down a little bit to fit in, or pretend that they don't like something that they're very interested in. But when they come to Mac.Rob, they can open up and fully be themselves because they're valued for that, and they'll find like-minded people who have similar interests and similar quirky enthusiasms. So really, one of the most defining features about schools are that they're about humans and what you do together. And at Mac.Rob, you're more likely to find your people, your humans, the people who will travel through life with you together and be your support system. There is a deep sense of belonging, and as a principal, there is nothing more fulfilling than being in an environment where people feel like they belong and that they have the confidence to be themselves. Yes, of course, we enrich young people academically, but we also enrich them socially, because when you feel like you belong and that you can be yourself, then it opens up this world of confidence and willingness to take a risk and put yourself out there and stretch yourself, and you're lifted up by these people who are around you. Every school has a vision, and we are hoping to live our vision, but visions are aspirational, and I would like to tell you a little bit more about ours. Our school vision is honouring diversity, inspiring curiosity and creativity, transforming lives. Visions are meant to be aspirational, and I can tell you that we haven't got this fully nailed, but we continue to work on it. The parts that we're doing incredibly well at, and I would say that, we're living on a daily basis, are the honouring diversity part and the transforming lives part. We still work, and we will always have work to do in the middle, in the inspiring curiosity and creativity. This work will never be done because there is always more to learn, there is always more curiosity, and there is always creativity. We can always change things, make new things, inspire creations, solve problems. So the middle part we'll always be working on. The outer parts we'll always be working on, but we're doing a pretty good job on those outer parts. We are a very diverse community. Whatever diversity you can think of, religious, cultural, neurodiversity, gender diversity, we are very diverse. And we don't want to just celebrate diversity, we want to honour it. We want to deeply understand it and cater to that diversity and then celebrate it as well. The transforming lives part of this is something that just astounds me every day, and I'm really delighted about every day. When I first got this job as principal, which is nearly 5 years ago, a lot of ex-Mac.Robians rang me up and they said, "That school saved my life. That school transformed my life. Going to that school opened my eyes up to new worlds." And they said, "You've got a very important job. Don't mess it up." I'm trying very hard not to. So that's a little bit about our vision, and hopefully it's something that resonates with you. Let's burrow in a bit deeper into this sense of belonging. Our students are very like-minded. So they all work very hard, they sit a test, they travel from across the city, they are generally very motivated, they generally have high aspirations, and they have high ability in one or more area. And that sense of commonality brings them together. But the other thing they have in common is that they seem to be very caring and kind young people. I do a school tour almost every week, and I can see some people who've already been on tour this year, so I'm pleased to see that you've come back. And I have 3 students accompany me every time. And basically I start a topic of conversation and they tell you about it. One day on tour recently, a student said, "We're just all really kind and caring people." And in my first month at Mac.Rob, I thought everyone was acting because they were so kind. But then I realised they wouldn't be able to keep it up for that long. So they're a really amazing, caring and empathic group of young people. And that creates this really high trust environment. The staff trust the students, they trust each other. So trusting, in fact, they don't lock their lockers. Now, I don't like that very much, but they are so trusting, some of them don't lock their lockers. If any of you get in, you start locking your lockers and I'll be much happier. This builds a sense of happiness and confidence. When you can be yourself, you can be confident. You don't have to be self-conscious. I was just talking about this with the students in the front row. When you can be yourself, there are no limits because you don't feel like you're being judged. You don't feel criticised. And so that is an amazing feeling to have and to take risks with. Let's also talk about growth. The irony of this place is that we are solely focused on growth. Not solely. We teach you how to perform when you need to perform, but you only need to perform occasionally, like in the NAPLAN and in your VCE exams and maybe in a concert. But the majority of your time is spent learning, and if you focus on that and not the performance, you're going to do better than if you focus on performance alone. The irony is that you have to sit this test and perform well to get in. But as soon as you do, you need to switch your thinking. All of you come to us with highly able skills in one or more area. And you're often the best in your class or the best in your year level. And then you come to Mac.Rob and there's 300 who were the best. Now, how many can be the best out of 300? Put your hand up. How many can be the best? Just one. So there would be 299 of you who are disappointed if we focused on being the best. So we now have to focus on growth. You growing and achieving your potential. You growing and being the best version of yourself. And the people around you will lift you up so that you can grow and stretch and be your best. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, our 4 values are listed. You'll hear a lot about community, and I've talked a little bit about that already. Growth is our second value. Very, very important. For us, growth is the same as learning, and our job is to stretch you from whatever point you're at. And currently in your classes, in your schools, the range of abilities and skills is like this. When you come to Mac.Rob, the range is like this. And so we have to stretch you beyond what you have been stretched already. And so you can expect that you'll be more challenged in your learning, that you might not get 90% or 100%. In fact, you might not get grades at all. You might only get feedback. But our job is to stretch you from whatever point you're at. We've developed something called the Mac.Rob Learner Model. You can look it up and read about it before you even come here because it's on macroblearnermodel.com. And it's a bespoke learner model about what learning is like in this context and this type of learning that we would like to promote. What I want you to pay attention to is at the centre of this learning model is well-being. And at Mac.Rob, well-being and learning are so intrinsically linked. You can only learn well if you're happy, healthy and well. And you will be happy and healthy if you are learning well. The two are interchangeable. And well-being affects every other aspect of the learner model. Yes, we promote curiosity by challenging you to step into the unknown, and we will expect that you are constantly stepping into classes where you don't know something, you get into the learning pit with each other, and you come out the other side by promoting a sense of curiosity. Yes, we'll give you lots of opportunity to create new and innovative solutions in your learning, and also in the co-curricular program. One of the myths about Mac.Rob is that it's a really competitive environment. It is not, and the students are going to tell you about that in their own words. We know that we learn best if we collaborate. One of the most impactful things about our school is that great minds come together, and together those great minds lift each other, so they build on each other's knowledge. The types of, even the social interactions that you have are more intellectual social interactions because of the types of young people that come here. We also want you to be very self-aware and able to self-regulate, to know where you need to grow next and to map that pathway. And so we ask you and scaffold you being reflective in your learning and your development. We try to have this balance between challenge and support. You need to be challenged in order to stretch, but you need supports to get there. And we'll support, and then take those supports away as you develop the skills and ability to manage that yourself. So as we move through year 9, 10, 11, 12, there's scaffolds to help you address the challenges that you face. Yes, we're an academic school, but you don't actually do well in academics if you exclude everything else in your life. You might do well for a short period of time, but life will be very boring. You'll be boring and uninteresting, and actually you'll burn out if that's what you focus on. So we focus on well-being and we focus on balance. At many schools, they talk about teaching and learning and well-being as separate. As I've said, at Mac.Rob, we talk about them together because they are so intrinsically linked to the identity of these young people. There are leadership opportunities abounding. At any one time, 1/3 of our students are in formal leadership positions, and for all the rest of the time, students are behaving as leaders in the way that they live in our community. So, for example, Steph, do you have a formal leadership position? You do. I didn't think you did. Bad example. What's your formal leadership position? Okay, she does have one. Bad example. Anyway, we say that you don't need to have a badge to be a leader. The final piece of the puzzle is being clear that you have the ability to act in your environment, that you have a say, that your say is considered valuable, that you can influence the environment. And every student that comes through the door influences our environment, and they have agency over it. Not only agency in the classroom and how their learning is progressing, but agency outside. There are lots of opportunities for us to build community in community, to have networks. So you'll start with a form group that we call Connect. You'll start with a house that has members of all 4 year levels. You'll have a year level that's got a special identity and a community, but when you join a club or a co-curricular group or a leadership portfolio or the music program or a sport team, then you're building community within community. Even your train travel buddies or your tram buddies will become a community within a community. We expect you to be actively involved in it because community is so important to us. And these people will be your community into the future when they go on to be leaders or contributors in society. They'll be your supporters and advocates. So build a strong community while you're here. We expect you to engage in things other than just study, to have balance, as I said. And so we've got an amazing co-curricular program. Any club you can possibly imagine, Finance club, they talk about the stock exchange. Karate club, you can tell what they do. Knitting club, you can also tell what they do. Any club you can imagine, there are little communities within community where students are expressing their passions and interests. The ultimate goal of secondary school is to have a pathway of choice when you leave. And our students have highly aspirational pathways that they want to pursue. And our job is to guide them there. Another part of our job is to say to them that you might not get there immediately after high school. But if you know that there are many ways to get there, that life isn't necessarily linear, then we can help you to plan that so that if plan A doesn't happen, plan B can be pulled into action. And so we've got a careers and pathways program that helps them to have a choice of meaning to them when they leave school. And I'm proud to say that in the whole time that I've been here, 100% of our students have left to a pathway of choice. And no, the pathway of choice is not always medicine. I know, finally got a laugh from you. Our job is, we're always, all of us, all humans are searching for happiness and fulfilment. And so we think if we can help our young students reach their aspirations, if we can help them have a sense of belonging in a community, if they know they're trusted and that they have agency over that, that they're valued and that they have confidence, then they're going to fly off into the next phase of their lives with the skills ready to embrace whatever that might be. And so that's what we're aiming to do. We're aiming to help humans be happy and fulfilled and to have the skills to find happiness and fulfillment whenever it's not there. We've also got a pretty amazing staff, and they too are caring and understanding. A lot of our professional learning is geared to how to attend to the needs of this unique cohort of students. So they care, they understand, and they understand that this is really important to you and they want to help you get to your aspirations. We have students induct our new staff, and when our students induct our new staff, often the new staff will say, "What's the most important thing we need to know?" And the students say to them in this beautiful way, "We want you to match us. We are enthusiastic, we're inspired, we're curious, we want to achieve big things, we want you to match us." And so our staff are engaged in ways that maybe other staff at other schools aren't. So there are lots of staff versus student matches. Often the staff lose those. There are lots of things like staff dressing up. And, you know, I can tell you, you're expected to dress up and engage in our fun activities about 5 times a year. And I lead from the front, and all of the staff, they're on board with it too. So we love engaging with students. If there's a talent show, the staff will be involved too in so many different ways. We run co-curricular clubs with students, we run leadership portfolios, we find enrichment opportunities. The other thing that our staff are highly skilled. We know that students trust their staff if they feel like they're competent and that they can get them to the aspirations that they have. And so we're constantly developing our staff through professional learning so they can do that better for our students. And all of this hopefully transforms lives, hopefully makes for a new and brighter experience in secondary school. We're incredibly values-led. Every student you stop in our school can tell you what the values are, and most of them can tell you at least some part of the vision. And so hopefully throughout this evening, you can see exemplifications of this in what I've told you, in what the students tell you, and what the other staff tell you. So I leave you this evening with the question, Does this sound like something you're interested in? Because if it is, sit the test and maybe we'll see you in the future. Good luck, everyone. We really appreciate your interest in Mac.Rob, and hopefully this evening you get what you need to help you make a decision. And now I have the pleasure of handing over to Lily and Della, who are Year 9 students.
Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to prospective families and students. I'm Lily from 9D.
And I'm Della from 9J.
And we're here to talk to you about Year 9 at Mac.Rob. Despite only being at Mac.Rob for a term, we've quickly settled into the community and are both enjoying it very much.
Tonight, we're going to be touching on how we settled in at Mac.Rob.
At the start, we wondered how we would adapt to such a rigorous academic school. There were so many activities and initiatives on the orientation day and first day program to get us used to the school, showcase our passions, and most importantly, make new friends.
Our peer support leaders, students in Year 10, really helped with making the school transition smooth, and it honestly only took me a week before I felt familiarised with my peers and teachers, thanks to all the introductory activities we did.
We were able to get information packs covering everything from leadership roles to a map of the school, which really helped with settling in and establishing a routine.
It's totally okay to be nervous when starting a new school. I sure knew I was. Before orientation, I was like, oh my god, everyone's so smart, I could never fit in with these people. I was worried about not finding anyone with the same interests as me, but all the introductory activities, like the class picnic, icebreaker games, and brochures, really helped me to feel at home at Mac.Rob.
Everyone here is in the same boat and are probably worrying about the exact same things as you are. Will people like me? Will there be stuff I'm actually interested in? Will I make friends? Don't stress, as in our first week there were so many activities to help us bond and meet new people from our Connect class, house and more. Everyone is coming from so many different schools and backgrounds, so you are bound to meet your people and find friendly faces.
Speaking about friendly faces, one of the best parts of Mac.Rob is the community. During my transition period to Mac.Rob, I found that everyone was so supportive and understanding, always willing to give feedback and be there for me.
Being in such a growth-oriented, respectful and supportive environment has encouraged me to give everything a go and try things I usually wouldn't try. In February, we also have camp, which was such a great experience.
Wait, did I hear something about camp? It's time! Camp was honestly such a big booster for making friends for me. Every activity was so enjoyable and exciting. We connected over playing foxholes and getting sand over all our faces and falling in the water when we went paddleboarding.
For me, one of my favourite memories of camp was when we became baristas, each getting a turn to make milkshakes or coffee. I was there for the milkshakes, of course. They tasted so good and gave me an opportunity to bond with my Connect class.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room: public transport. Now, this is coming from a girl who used to wake up at 8 every day. Is waking up at 6 worth it? In short, yes.
Most of Mac.Rob takes public transport, and I see so many of my peers every day going to Flinders or Melbourne Central, so rest assured you aren't alone.
At the start of the year, there is also a Transport Buddies program set up, so if you want to have a friendly face on public transport, you can link up with other Mac.Rob students who take your line.
When I first came home from my first day at Mac.Rob, I flopped on the couch and said to my mum, "Mum, how do people do this every single day?" She told me that she understood how tired I was, but that I should remind myself of all the benefits of the school, of all the opportunities I got, and how fortunate I was to be at a school like this. 2 months later, and it's safe to say that coming here is so worth it, and I'm so grateful and glad to all the new people I've met along the way.
To all the prospective families considering Mac.Rob, we want you to know that Mac.Rob has so much more to offer than just academics.
This school is a place where you can be yourself and join a diversity of clubs, initiatives and programs with support and encouragement.
Thank you, and we'd now like to hand over to Ikantika and Theodora to talk about life at Mac.Rob.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Theodora,
And I'm Ikantika.
and we're here to discuss what's it like when Mac.Rob finally becomes home. Before becoming a part of Mac.Rob, when asking students what they love about the school the most, the answer was always the community. the unwavering support, the always extended helping hand, and the like-mindedness. Mac.Rob is not just about academics, but about the everlasting friendships that come from belonging to the school. This is during the time period where you start to figure out who you are and the type of people you want to surround yourself with. At Mac.Rob, whether it's helping you study before a test, explaining a concept you didn't understand, or just checking in on you on a tough day, you can be confident that your peers are there to help you.
On the note of test, academics in Mac.Rob challenge you to think critically, solve problems, and explore ideas in depth. What makes it truly unique is the combination of high expectations and encouragement for creativity. Teachers guide you to excel while fostering curiosity. Personally, I remember struggling with this particularly tough psychology concept. So my teacher not only explained it in a complete new way, but also encouraged me to explore it by observing it in my daily life. That experience didn't just help me understand the content, it also showed me how to approach problems independently and creatively, a skill I know I'll use far beyond school.
A highlight of school is 100% Connect. Connect is a class you get put into Year 9 and stay with you until graduation. In Year 9, you get to do Connect Clash, which is a bunch of competitions in which you verse other Year 9 classes. It's all in good fun, with joy and laughter coloring the memories formed. Even in later year levels, there are events like Connect boards that bring class unity to the forefront. In Year 10, you meet twice a week, becoming almost like family, a stable place you can always come to for help and even just encouragement.
Consequently, leadership at Mac.Rob is not just about holding a title or a badge. It's about taking initiative, mentoring others, and making a positive impact. I had the opportunity to lead a small team during a group project, and while it was challenging to coordinate ideas or handle responsibilities, I learned how to communicate clearly, motivate others, and stay responsible under pressure. These experiences help cultivate my confidence, teamwork, and resilience, qualities that will help prepare me for future workplaces, community involvement, or any other situations where collaboration might matter.
Beyond academics and friendship, house is another major part of our school. It's where the competitive side of Mac.Robians really comes out. Each student is placed in either dryads, nereids, oreads, or naiads based on which Connect class they are in. Throughout the year, there are heaps of events. House swimming and athletics is where students race and compete against each other in a multitude of events. That is just one aspect, however, with chants and dressing up being a major highlight. Every student is highly encouraged to participate, whether it is by competing, by cheering, or by dressing up. Everything contributes to who wins the House Cup. House fosters unity and connects students across all year levels, building a community where students feel valued, supported, and proud to belong.
Adding on to that, house drama, dance, and music at Mac.Rob is truly special because these events let every student shine in different ways. From acting, dancing, singing, to choreographing, or even helping behind the scenes. It's not just about winning, it's about collaboration, self-expression, and celebrating each other's talents. What makes it really memorable is that everyone gets to contribute to a bigger picture. You spend weeks planning, rehearsing, and performing with your house, often across multiple year levels, so you bond with people you might not otherwise interact with. The energy during these performances, from the cheering to the costumes to the creativity, is truly contagious, and the pride in your house events creates a strong sense of belonging and accomplishment. So, from a personal perspective, it's about the moment of laughter, improvisation, and teamwork in every single house event that stick with you long after, showing that Mac.Rob success isn't just about academics. It's creative, collaborative, and joyful too. Thank you so much for listening. We would now like to introduce Leba and Stephanie to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're here to bust some of the biggest myths about Mac.Rob.
Because if you're here, chances are you've already heard some.
Some of them sound convincing,
Some of them sound slightly terrifying.
but most of them completely busted. I'm Steph.
I'm Liba, and for tonight, we're your Mythbusters. This might be one of the biggest assumptions. Everyone assumes that since the entrance exam is incredibly tough, our school focuses only on results. Allegedly, our well-being and health don't matter, but I just don't know if this is true. You tell me, do only our grades matter to Mac.Rob?
Sure, academics matter, but the school is so much more than that. There's a huge focus on developing the whole person, not just academic success, but well-being, growth, and balance. Remember, your health takes priority over your math test next week. Adding on, we've got a handful of non-academic opportunities, from house events, sport, music, leadership portfolios, and clubs, to new initiatives that prioritize student well-being. You're constantly encouraged to explore your interests and not limit yourself to just studying. Now, a lot of students also assume that because we're a selective school, everyone's a genius, so we all must be competing against each other and not have any real friendships, connections. What do you think? Is Mac.Rob full of geniuses who have already figured everything out?
Definitely not. I remember thinking that too, and I know that so many other students were worried as well. But the reality is, everyone starts in the exact same position. No one really knows what to expect at the beginning of a school year. And chances are, you're all on the same boat. Enough in the environment here. Instead of it being competitive, it's actually the opposite. Here, we all help each other, motivate each other, and celebrate each other's successes. Whether it be through celebrating the small wins or shared study sessions, it's not about being better than others here. It's about growing as a community together.
Another common myth is that everyone is too focused on themselves to form real friendships, or that because students come from all over, it's harder to connect. What impact does geographical barriers have on connections?
One thing about Mac.Rob is that people come from everywhere. But instead of letting that impact friendships, Mac.Rob actually makes it really easy to make friends from the start. Things like Year 9 camp at the beginning of the year really help you find your people and make meaningful bonds that last for years to come. And throughout the year, there are so many other events, including house dance, swimming, music, drama, and so many more where you're just having fun, not worrying about academics at all. And trust me, before you know it, you've built really strong friendships with people you might have never met otherwise.
With long travel times and schoolwork, it can seem overwhelming, but the transition into Year 9 is actually very gradual. And there's always support available, from teachers to peers to well-being services. You learn how to manage your time in a way that works for you. And importantly, you don't have to give up your interests. Whether it's sport, music, or other extracurriculars, there are plenty of opportunities, both inside and outside of school, to stay involved. For example, I get to play netball every weekend, and I get to play saxophone and flute outside of school.
I personally have a part-time job, and I also do martial arts outside of school.
So, if you already couldn't tell, Mac.Rob didn't stop us from pursuing what we wanted and didn't take up every hour of our life. So guys, if there's one thing you take away from tonight,
it's that Mac.Rob isn't defined by these myths.
It's not just about academics, and it's not a toxic or isolating environment.
And it's definitely not a place where you lose who you are. It's a place where you grow into who you can be.
So thank you, everyone. Now passing on to Ms. Phillips for some more key information.
Thank you very much, Steph and Liba. Welcome to Mac.Rob. My name is Josie Phillips, and I've got the privilege of being the middle school leader here. A key part of my role is supporting our Year 9s and 10s through this transition process, from things like leading orientation days, which happen at the end of the year, to our first day programs, camps, and supporting the day-to-day needs of our students. We go to a lot of effort to build connections and a positive year-level culture and make sure that we're meeting students' individual points of need and stretching them to grow. Throughout my presentation, I am going to really touch on some of the admin behind applying to Mac.Rob. So Sue's spoken about and asked you to think about, is this something you want for yourself? Is this something you want for your young person? You've heard from all of our student speakers. So now, if the answer is yes, hopefully it is something that has piqued your curiosity. We're going to talk through how do you take that step in applying and what do the next few months look like. I am going to do my very best to weave in some of the questions we've already received throughout the Google form to my responses as I go through these slides. So as we spoke about, apologies. As we spoke about, Mac.Rob is one of the 4 select entry high school schools. So we're a government public school and we are part of that network. So application to these schools is managed through a centralised process through the Department of Education, and depending on the year level for entry, either ASA or EduTest. Here at Mac.Rob, we accept the majority of our students into Year 9. That's 300 students, so it spans across 12 classes, 25 students in each class, and a much smaller number at Year 10 and Year 11. We don't have transfers into Year 12. For eligibility into Mac.Rob, a significant component of that is sitting an entrance test through either ASA or EduTest. But the other part of eligibility is being an Australian or New Zealand citizen, or having a visa or IMI card that is applicable by the time you accept your offer. So we know that for some families, you might be in the process of organising these visas. That is okay, but by the time the offer rounds commence in August, that needs to be there so that you can accept the offer. We have 2 sets of intakes, so I'm going to spend a moment talking through our Year 9 enrolment process, and then I know there's some prospective Year 10 and Year 11 families and students in the crowd as well, so I will then talk through that. So as mentioned, our Year 9 entry caters for 300 students. Each year between the 4 select entry schools, there's around 5,000 students that will sit that entrance exam, but it is really variable year on year. And we will accept 300 of those into Mac.Rob. Applications have already opened, so you may have already replied, which is excellent if you have, and they close in just under a month on the 24th of April. The entrance exam for entrance at Year 9 will take place on Saturday, June the 26th, and that occurs at multiple locations throughout Melbourne. Mac.Rob doesn't administer that test. It is overseen by ASA, who liaises with the department for that. There are multiple testing centres around Melbourne, and they'll try their very best to match you up with one that is nearby your home. One of the things that we do want to reassure you, though, is if you're not allocated to the Mac.Rob testing centre, that is okay. It has in absolutely no way an impact on your application to the schools. So please don't worry if you're not allocated to Mac.Rob as your centre for that day. You're still able to preference Mac.Rob for your application. ASA are also really non-negotiable about those testing locations. So once you're allocated to that, they do ask that we share with you that that can't be changed because of the administration that takes place behind the scenes. So you'll need to sort of make plans and arrangements to attend that centre. Of course, there are some exceptional circumstances with families that might be overseas, so we would just encourage you to talk to ASA about that and they can guide you through that process. Now, for the students and families that might be thinking about joining us at Year 10, we have a far smaller number of places there. At Year 9, as we said, we'll admit 300 students, but we know from time to time there might be students that decide not to continue on at Mac.Rob. We have some students that relocate interstate or overseas based on family commitments, and we really want to have those opportunities available for students to still come and join us. So what that means is any student that leaves throughout Year 9, a place becomes available for Year 10 intake. On average, there's a very small number of places, unfortunately, around 10 at Year 10 from the last few years, from sort of 5 to 10, and Year 11, an even smaller number, maybe around 3 to 5 each year. Applications for the Year 10 and 11 intake are overseen by the school and EduTest instead. So that one isn't centralised between all of the select entry schools, it is managed by us. And it also includes an entrance exam. Applications for that one, again, are now open, but they close a little bit later on the 29th of May. The entrance exam for Year 10-11 entry is on the 15th of June. Once you've gone through the testing process, we then talk through how the selection occurs. There are 3 key things to keep in mind through this. Initially, around 85% of places for a spot at a select entry school are considered based on merit, so based on that entrance exam and performance on that. With those places, as well as principal's discretion, one of the things that the department do look at are a capacity quota. What that means is for the school that you attend, no more than 4% of people can be offered a spot in any of the 4 select entry schools. Now, that is slightly different for students that are coming from a P to 9 school, where that increases to 10%. That is not something that you need to think about or worry about. It's something that's calculated by the department, but that is one of those things that influences that sort of 85% of applications. The second thing that is taken into account for around 10% of places is equity consideration. So as you're applying to ASA or to Mac.Rob for 1011, you'll be able to sort of select this category if you're receiving income support or on a healthcare or pension card or identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. And you'll be considered, in addition to your merit, your entrance exam for one of those places. The remaining 5% are under the category of principal's discretion. And this is where students might be offered a chance to come and interview with members of our principal team here at Mac.Rob. These ones, of course, still take into account the entrance exam, but you're invited to bring along and showcase who you are as a whole person. So your co-curricular is what you love to do, and we just get to know a little bit more about you. For that, students are invited to apply. So unfortunately, it's not something you can reach out to us and say, I'd like to be considered for principal's discretion. We would let you know what to submit, what required documents there are, and invite students along to an interview for that place. Once all of that is considered, offers start going through. Round 1 offers this year will come out on August the 3rd. And the majority places at a select entry school go through in round 1, but they will go through lots of rolling rounds until the end of the year, until we reach full capacity. As we've gone through the night, hopefully you've been able to have a few of your questions answered. As mentioned earlier, we are collating a frequently asked questions document. So we've tried to sort of adjust. We've had some people working away in the background, already typing responses, and we'll close that tomorrow afternoon. We will then work on collating all of that, and we will distribute it to you via email next week. On that document as well, we'll include some of the key links from tonight's slides. One of the questions that has come through is around our school tours. We know that the majority on the website currently are at capacity, so we'll look at adding a few more in if you're interested in coming along. They're a really great way just to get to know the school a little bit more informally, tour around with our principal and some student leaders, and ask lots of questions in that small group setting. But we would encourage you to keep asking some questions so we can help you make a really informed choice about whether Mac.Rob is the right fit for you. As you're going through the application process, you'll be asked to give a preference between what schools you'd like to come from. So hopefully tonight has equipped you with some of the knowledge so that our young people in the room can have some agency to make a choice about what school best suits their needs. We are almost at the end of our evening, and in a moment we're going to touch on a couple of questions. But before I pass over to a couple more adults, I do want to take a moment just to thank all of our students that have been involved. I am so incredibly proud of what they've put together with their speeches. I think they are an excellent representation of who a Mac.Rob student is, as well as all of our musicians that were playing piano, flute as you were entering. So could we please give all of our students a massive round of applause? Thank you so much. We've actually let them sneak out so they can get home early, and we're not keeping them too late because it is getting a little bit dark. With our frequently asked questions, we are going to take a moment, and I'm going to reintroduce Sue Harrop, our principal, but also Michelle Pride, our assistant principal who oversees wellbeing, inclusion, house and leadership, to address a couple of ones that have put in. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing many of you next year.
I'm going to take a question. There was a question about to what extent are our alumni involved, and they're very involved. When you join Mac.Rob, it's like joining a secret society, and everyone who's been in it and everyone who's in it want to see the success of Mac.Rob students. And so our alumni, their commitment continues. The school has a real meaning for them in their lives, and they would like to see its success continue. So we have a lot of online careers seminars. It'll have a theme, so it might be a legal theme or a public service theme or something, and alumni get together and parents and students can join and hear about careers in those industries. We've got leadership programs that they offer. We've just finished a 6-week leadership program called the Junior Leadership Program that Year 10s are involved in, and alumni run that, developing their leadership skills. They offer mentoring, they offer work experience placements. We have a community partnerships leader at Mac.Rob, and she reaches out to alumni, and various alumni offer internships and internships in industry. They're very involved, and I think that transforming lives part of our vision encapsulates that they want to continue to be involved. We had an International Women's Day breakfast on Friday last week. We had it late, so it could be inclusive of those who are celebrating Ramadan. And alumni came back to that and spoke and had keynotes and panel discussion. And then alumni who hadn't been back since they were at school since 1994, a group of 6 of them came along and had breakfast here, and then we took them on a tour and they were doing the Remember When, so they're very heavily involved. We also have a foundation called the Mac.Rob Foundation that raises funds to offer scholarships and bursaries for students. That's all run by alumni, and so very involved. You can take the next one.
Thanks, Sue. Hi, everyone. My name's Michelle. As Josie said, I'm one of the assistant principals here. There are 3 of us, and my main role is leading the school team of teachers and ES staff in student wellbeing and inclusion, along with other elements of student leadership. So there's a few technical questions I thought might be helpful to answer around the entrance exam. How can I prepare for the entrance exam? How do we access practice papers? There's information on the Select Entry website for that, and we'll link it into the document. So there's a couple of practice questions that you can do, and that's probably important if you want to do some timed practice. Obviously they're short exams, and another question was if they're online. They're in person here, and there's some questions around whether you can sit them if you're interstate or overseas. So we'll refer you in the handout to the links that you can get that information from. There are some circumstances on where people can sit the exam interstate or overseas, but there's specific information you need to read both on the ASA website or the Select Entry website and the Department of Education Select Entry detail on their website as well. Did you want to talk about drama and performing arts?
There are a few questions about drama and the performing arts and whether you can be involved in that at Mac.Rob. Yes, please. We would love more of that. So we have a play every second year that we do in combination with Melbourne High School, and then every other second year we have a musical. We also have house drama at the end of every term 2, and each house writes and directs their own play and performs that as part of the house competition. We have got a theatre sports club, we've got a student-led play, we've got a relationship with Adelaide High School that's been running for 112 years, and we have 12 events that we compete against them with, and one of those is theatre sports. And we've got debating and public speaking. Now, I know that's not specifically drama, but you need a little bit of drama when you're debating and public speaking. And we've got drama from Year 9 through to Year 12. We've got Year 12 theatre studies that run, and we regularly take the kids off to the theatre for them to see that as well. So performing arts is a really big part of Mac.Rob, and we want you to develop those skills as well and to put yourself out there, to learn how to improvise and to get involved in a community activity. So if you love the arts, you've got plenty of opportunities here at Mac.Rob.
And there was a question also around choir competitions and house chorals, and we are a week away from our house music event next week. We have 4 major house events that happen here at school. We also have swimming and athletics. They're all compulsory, not compulsory to do the actual activities, but you have to be there and be part of it. Our house system is a really significant part of being a student at Mac.Rob and getting a sense of belonging. We see amazing student-led productions through music and drama and also house dance, but music is next week. Chorals is part of that, or what we call madrigals, and it's been running for as long as the school has been open. So a really exciting last day of term. Most of our house activities run on the last day of term, so I wanted to touch on that. There was a question around how does the school support and bring awareness to the importance of mental health and wellbeing and breaking the stigma around mental health. I'm really proud that we make this a significant focus of the work that we do with the students. We know they come here for academic challenge, but we know that also brings all of the normal challenges that every young person, whether they're in this school or not, experiences. They are equipped with lots of learning opportunities around mental health. So we focus on it in our Connect program. It's our social and emotional learning program that all of the students from 9 to 12 have time in with their core class across the week. So in that program, we really focus on 4 key pillars that are repeated from 9 to 12. And the first one is building foundations of good mental health. We talk to the students about emotion regulation, emotional intelligence, resilience, and independence. Those things are really the pillars of what we do across the 4 years. It sort of changes scope. But we also offer a really amazing mental health team here. The way we destigmatise it is to normalise help seeking. We know that it's really important for students to be able to firstly go to an adult when they need one, and for that adult to direct them in the right way to the supports that they might need. So that might be a classroom teacher, or it might be someone more specialised in mental health like social workers, counsellors and psychologists. So we normalise that here at the school. We know that students and young people carry a lot with them every day to school, and we want to make sure that whatever help they need, we can meet their needs, whether that's in the classroom or outside of the classroom. I think you're going to wrap up, are you? Oh, yeah. Raga, what do you like most about the school? Putting you on the spot.
So if you have been on a school tour with us, this is an answer that I think many of you will be familiar with, but it is the community at Mac.Rob. Ms. Harif and everyone else tonight has talked a lot about it, but I just wanted to reinforce what's so special about the community at Mac.Rob. I tell this story quite a lot, but after my first day, I went home and my mum asked me, Raga, how was your first day? And I said, I love it so much. I love the people and I've known them for a day. So that is definitely my favourite part about Mac.Rob, the support, the kindness, the celebration that we have about one another, and just the love that we have for learning and everyone's journeys.
Yeah, building on what Raga said, I think there's something really unique and special about our community here, but also building on that, the opportunities that we get are really different to what other schools might experience. So something I really appreciate about Mac.Rob is that I've had the opportunity to develop myself not only as a learner, but as a person. I think that I've done so much at the school to allow me to kind of gain confidence and skills that I wouldn't have acquired just in the classroom. So that's really one of my favorite things about Mac.Rob.
Excellent. Thanks, Raga. Thanks, Selma. There are so many questions here. We don't actually have time to go through them all, but if you need a personal response to a question, please make sure your email is included and just ask for an individual response and we can give that to you. We don't project the questions onto the screen because there's often a lot that we need to screen through and filter and make sure that they're not ones that need to be directly and personally responded to, but we're happy to do that. Otherwise, everything will go into a frequently asked questions document that will be emailed to you. Any links that you need to information will include in that document. I'm going to hand it over to Raga and Selma to wrap up.
So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you spending your Thursday night with us. To exit the hall, for the people at the top, you will just go down the way that you came up. For everyone in the back of the hall, there are 2 exits behind you, and for everyone at the front, there are 2 exits on the side as well. Thank you so much.